What up, good people? Welcome back to the Garry and Jason show, Dialogues and Dialects in Tech, where we share a little bit about our journeys as entrepreneurs and ecosystem builders while sharing what's going on in the tech world.
Yep.
So, Jason, let me know what's going on with you. How was your week?
It was actually a pretty good week, and my school actually had an even better week.
Okay.
Which is why I decided to don my Howard shirt
You
today.
repping real hard.
I don't know if you saw in the news, but Nicole Hannah-Jones and Mr. Coates, Ta-Nehisi Coates, they will be joining the faculty of Howard University. So that just, as an alumnus, it makes me feel good.
Yeah.
So that makes me even want to, make sure that my endeavors are reaching great heights and reach a level of success that they have, because both of those brothers and sisters, they have really just excelled at their field. So they're great examples to lead by.
This is why they call it the Mecca.
I think that's why they call it the Mecca. It just produces greatness and just cultivates black talent. But I know other HBCUs do as well.
Absolutely.
Too. But I'm definitely going to rep Howard all
As you should.
Nevertheless, how's your week going? What's new with you?
Man, my week was great. It was a busy week as always, being a founder, you know what I mean? Running an organization, supporting other founders, trying to help people with their pitch decks and, get ready for competitions and trying to help people get this money.
That's right.
On top of that, we trying to get our own money.
That's right.
So it takes a lot of work.
The money is out here.
It's out here. So
but it takes work to get it.
Yeah, a lot of preparation, a lot of following up with people. Mm-hmm. But it's a beautiful thing just to be able to do that, and pursue it. So I'm just happy about that and looking forward to next week where I'll be traveling to Austin, Texas.
What's going on in Austin?
Man, Austin is a big tech hub. Big startup scene.
Right. South by Southwest is down there.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I'm going to go check out Capital Factory. I hear a lot of good things from founders about Capital Factory. So I'm going to check that out with a good friend. Okay. And I'll be coming back to report on what I find, who I meet.
Is that an accelerator or what is Capital Factory?
I believe they have an accelerator. They invest in startups. It's a big hub for innovation. So, a meeting spot for founders. Just a place where people connect and share resources.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Sounds like Philly needs something like that.
Absolutely. Let's work on it.
Yeah, let's work on that.
All right.
So, just wanted to give you guys a quick little rundown, a couple stories in the news that are tech related that we wanted to share with you all. So, the first being that there is a Nigerian fintech company called Lydia, which raised its Series B round of $8.3 million. So, to date, that might be one of Africa's largest venture capital raises. So congratulations to those folks. They're doing great things in the fintech world. Moving on, the United States Pentagon, our military arm, they canceled Microsoft's contract, which, if you can remember, was originally awarded to Amazon. Amazon at the time was owned by Jeff Bezos, who also owns the Washington Post, who Donald Trump was having a little beef with, so he canceled the Amazon contract. Microsoft got it. New administration canceled that contract, so now they're talking about sharing the contract. Long story, crazy, but it looks like we're going to have some type of conclusion with who's going to have the cloud contract for our military industrial complex.
Wow.
So, a lot there. What stories do you have, Garry?
Oh, man, I got some breaking news from afrotech.com. You ready for this?
Ready.
BLK launches Vax That Thang Up with Juvenile, Manny Fresh, and Mia X.
Whoa.
BLK, a dating site for black singles, has announced a new campaign with rap legends Juvenile, Manny Fresh, and Mia X. In a press release, it was revealed that Vax That Thang Up campaign will feature a reboot of the classic song Back That Thang Up with an important message about vaccination. If you're interested in reading more, hearing more about that campaign, go to afrotech.com. The story is there.
Did you see the music video? That's my only question. I know about the campaign, but did you see the actual video?
I've not seen it.
Okay.
You've seen it.
I have seen it.
Okay.
I just say it was sent to me, and I'm just going to reserve my comments. If you would like to be entertained, for anyone out there, if you want some entertainment, want to get a good laugh, then go ahead and YouTube that video. Make sure you vax that thing up.
Make sure you vax that thing up. You looking real good when you vax that thing up. Wow.
I almost got myself in trouble.
Oh, snap.
Okay. All right. So today we are really going to get on the path of the entrepreneur. And what I mean by that is really identifying the different stages of what it takes to create a business. And one of the very first things that you have to do is identify what the problem is for the business that you're trying to create a solution for. Right. And so I think a lot of times as entrepreneurs, we get business plans and we're like, it's very just like kind of checklist-ish, if that makes sense. Like,
Sure.
And so what I've found though over time is that identifying a problem, there's a lot of nuance within that, right? So when you identify that problem, you have to figure out who the audience is, how big that audience is, how much, could be that problem that you're solving could be worth. Because at the end of the day, if that's a business that you can viably, bring about and you want to grow it, those are the questions that an investor is going to ask. Ultimately, if I give you money, how big is this problem and how can we solve it together and on scale? So with that said, let's go ahead and throw some examples out there. So from your experience, Gary, and I know you have your startup now, what is the problem that you identified and how did you go about identifying that problem?
Man, it's so crazy because like it's all in the fundamentals, right? Like in sports and also in business.
Right.
And one of those fundamentals is solve real problems.
Yep.
And for me, the biggest lesson I've learned as an entrepreneur is to listen, observe, right? What I did was I interviewed other entrepreneurs.
Okay.
Because I had this assumption, like, I believe everybody has problems. We all got problems.
Right.
And entrepreneurs capitalize on those problems. So what I set out to do was to interview entrepreneurs, Black and brown business owners, to hear from them, what are your biggest challenges? What are your biggest problems right now as it relates to you as a business owner?
Right.
And just through those interviews, like literally sitting down one-on-one, just like this, just talking, and me just taking notes. I came in with a notebook and a pen, and I would ask, what's your biggest challenge with your business? And when you ask, people will tell you. And when you ask them about their problems, people tell you a whole lot. So
open book.
Yes. I filled notebooks worth of notes about the problems that these entrepreneurs were facing. And it would always revolve around lack of access to capital, whether they were a small business or a tech startup, it didn't matter. Lack of access to mentors, access to people that believed in them, access to resources like workspace, like marketing support, all this kind of stuff. Everything that a business needs to thrive, these entrepreneurs were saying, we ain't got it.
Got you.
So that's the problem.
There's a deficit.
There's a deficit. And the resources are out there. We were talking about this before. All the resources are out there, but accessibility is the problem. Access, diversity, equity, inclusion in all things is not a reality yet. And, that's the problem that we're setting out to tackle.
That's a beautiful thing. And so after your interviews, like you said, you found kind of like a commonality between, after interviewing all these entrepreneurs, who are your customers in essence for the business that you have. What gave you the validation once you identified the problem to then move forward and then to actually create a business around it?
Yeah, so that's the big thing, is not just identifying a problem, but to your point, figuring out how much is that problem worth.
Right.
How much is that problem worth? Is it a big enough problem to where people will pay for a solution? And things get complex and complicated in business when you have multiple sort of customer segments.
Yes.
Right?
Whew.
Yeah.
Preach.
Yeah. So there may be a lot of people with the problem, but those people may not have the money to solve the problems for themselves.
Speak on it.
So what you have to do as an entrepreneur is say, okay, well, if they can't afford a solution, right, but they need a solution, maybe they're creating a solution in their own way,
Right.
but it's like this makeshift thing that's like, super janky, or something where it's like they're going out of their way, they're wasting time, they're spending a lot of money, like they're doing things that are not efficient and don't actually help them grow their business and grow as an entrepreneur.
Right.
You have to find someone else who also values the problem. And for me, it was the government. Because the government wants our community, our ecosystem to thrive.
That's right.
And when our entrepreneurs are struggling, they're not getting the resources that the government is supposed to be putting in place and the infrastructure that's supposed to be in place to support business ownership, small business ownership, tech startup founding and whatnot. That means that there's a deficit. So what I did was interview those entrepreneurs, and I also interviewed the government.
Because the government ultimately would be the ones probably writing the checks, right?
The government wrote the check for us to solve the problem. So that's super important, is to understand like how are things connected, right? Like if you have customer segments, that means that you have, say, an end user like entrepreneurs in the community,
right,
as well as an end user that is like the county government that's supposed to support local entrepreneurs, right? And when you can show that deficit, when you can come to them and paint the picture and give your pitch deck and say, look, here are the entrepreneurs that exist here. You love them, right? You do love them. You love promoting them. Well, guess what? Here are their stories. Here's what they're struggling with. Here's what they really say behind closed doors. Right?
Yeah.
If you want them to succeed, here's what they need. And then same thing, in my interviews with the government, I would ask them, what are your biggest challenges in serving these entrepreneurs?
Mm-hmm.
And what I learned from them was, capacity, right? We've got the mission. We know what we want to do, but we can't do it all by ourselves. And when you listen, your potential customers will literally tell you what the solution needs to be.
Yes, they will.
Your customers have the answers.
They do.
You just got to listen to them.
And they may even tell you what the value is, how much they're willing to pay for it.
Yes.
On the spot.
Yes.
So that takes out the link of, how much do I price this service or product for?
Yes.
By doing those interviews and going directly to who your potential customer is, they are literally giving you the market analysis or feedback that you would need. And more than likely, as you're doing those interviews, that's who will be your first customer.
Yep.
So it may start off as, hey, I'm doing research to do this endeavor or to find out more information about this thing I'm working on. And as it evolves and you build that relationship with that interviewer who could potentially be that first customer will turn into that first customer, because one, you build that relationship, you come up with a price point, you've identified the value that you can bring that you both agree on. And so, yes, I wholeheartedly agree. That is definitely the way to go, and how you validate what the problem is.
That's it.
I think also, just to add on to that, a big mistake that a lot of entrepreneurs make, including ourselves, we definitely have made these mistakes, is making a lot of assumptions as to what the customer wants or what the market wants. It's like, even though we personally may have these issues or this problem, that's not to say that everyone in our community or that looks like us or is within our friend group has that problem. So the best way to identify how big that problem is to actually talk to that end customer who's actually going to be paying the money, not the person who just likes to give an opinion about whatever that service or product is. While opinion, that is good to get some of that insight, the person who actually has the monetary value, the money that's actually going to pay for it, that's the person to listen to.
Yep.
And the last thing I'll add to that is, and this is kind of sneaking into next week when we talk about solutions, but we're still focused on the problem.
Okay.
Is that you may start off in one area thinking that the problem is one customer base, but as you alluded to, as you talk through it, your customer may eventually be someone who you hadn't even thought of before. Case in point, maybe it's a government. If you're trying to create a social network, your customer isn't the everyday user that goes on there. Your customer is actually the advertisers. Like, for example, is that is Facebook. All those different multinational companies and different small companies that advertise on Facebook, that's Facebook's customer. The users, the 7 billion users, how many billion users are on? 2 billion, I think, that are on Facebook, we're not their customer at the end of the day. We're their primary users, but we're not the customer. So really identifying that will definitely lead you on the right path.
Wow. You are so right. And also, like you said, if we're users of Facebook and not necessarily a customer, for one, that says something about us, right? Being a user versus a producer.
Yep.
Now, that aside, as users, we are being used because our data is being used and sold to those advertisers.
Without us even knowing.
So one way or another, these companies are getting their money.
Correct.
That's how we got to think.
That's it.
Anyway, that was great. Now, my question for you, though, because you're a startup founder yourself.
That is.
Yes. Can you tell us about your startup and what is the problem that you identified?
Whew, very loaded. So, Katika, when we initially started, first of all, it was kicked off from just being in a group meet chat and seeing people write literally every day. Where can I find a Black-owned hair salon, dentist, dermatologist? Fill in the blank. Literally every day, young Black professionals in Philadelphia are asking and continue to ask this question. And so immediately I thought, oh, that's my customer right there. There's a problem. I can provide a solution by, aggregating all the different services or Black businesses within the city and then connect them to it. However, what I found out was that actually isn't my customer. Why? Because that's not who's going to pay to be on Katika. The actual customer is that business. And so then we had to discover, well, what problem is that business having? And what it came down to is Black businesses have an issue of being discovered on the internet. Now, this is from, due to a myriad of issues, but I'll just name a few. One being there's a lack of education on how to even use the internet from a lot of our more mature businesses. So folks, you like baby boomers may have a business that they started in the 90s. They may have had one website built ever for it. Their business deals with the government, so they just do contracts or something. And so they never needed a web presence, or they never sought more information into building out a web identity. And so you just have this vacancy of Black businesses when you go on Google and you go to search for them. It appears that they're not there, but they may have not done the correct meta tags for SEO or something. Another issue is I'll just call it the overcrowding of some of these search platforms. So if there's only, don't hold me to these numbers, let's just say like 2 million Black-owned businesses versus 30 million, of other businesses. Well, if they're all in one place, who are you more likely going to find if you just do a random search? And so just from sheer numbers, we're kind of oversaturated when it comes to search engines. But I guess to kind of get to the point and how we really identified that problem, it came down to what I was mentioning earlier, was taking a step back, because we had launched back in 2018, but really taking a step back, putting everything on pause and re-interviewing who that primary customer is, not the secondary customer is, who's basically an app user, but the primary, who's the business owner, and saying, what is your problem? And their problems revolved around discoverability and sales and marketing. So with the new iteration of Katika, we tried to solve for both of those things. Now, again, we'll wait for that for next week, but the biggest takeaway is whoever you believe that customer base is, interview them and then figure out how big it is to determine the value, to see if you can actually create a business off of that.
Question for you.
Yes, sir.
If I want to interview said potential customers, problem owners. Let's call them problem owners.
Problem owners,
because
that's a great term.
they are not yet customers.
Correct.
If I want to interview potential problem owners, how might I go about that? Can I do a survey? Is a survey an interview?
No, a survey is not an interview. So, and I'm sure if you've been in any type of group chats, you've probably seen people drop a link. You've looked at that link and probably have not clicked on it unless that was your home or your good friend. But no, that's not a proper way to do an interview. You want to actually physically talk to the person to identify whatever solutions, because you may come with some questions, but they will go off on an entire tangent because people love to talk about their issues and their business and their passion. And if they feel like they're talking to someone who can potentially help them, then they'll just offer up so much valuable information that can really help you with what you're trying to solve.
How many people should I interview before, saying, okay, I'm on to something. I've validated this problem. 100?
No.
Okay. 1,000?
No. So I would, I would say this is maybe based off of whatever industry your business is in. But a good rule of thumb, I would say have no less than 10 people. I think 10 is a solid number. The reason I say no less, and maybe might even say no more than 10, is because after a while, you're just going to hear the same thing over and over, right? And so you need a small sample size to validate it. So now you may not, maybe some of the initial people you interview may not be your initial customers. You may have to do a couple interviews to even find who that real customer is. But once you do, have that as your interview base and really work with them. So that'll be who helps you determine what your problem is, but also what the potential solution will be for that problem that you're solving.
You dropped like a golden nugget, which was you may start to hear the same things over and over again.
Yes.
That's what you want to hear.
That's what you want to hear. And when you hear the same thing over and over, a light bulb should just just form on top of your head. Like the sky will open up and you're going to start levitating.
Yep.
Like, tell you.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's when you have definitely identified it and you are on your way.
Yeah. That's it.
That's a really good feeling too.
Yeah, it is.
That's a very good feeling.
It is, because we're talking about assumptions, right? You believe there to be a problem. And then when you validate the problem, when you validate there is a problem, it may not be the problem as you originally defined it.
Correct.
The problem as you assumed it would be. But when you validate, okay, yes, there is a problem and a lot of people have this problem, you're like, I knew it. I was onto something.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
I may not have been able to articulate it, the same way that, it's now expressed, but okay. I knew it.
Yeah.
I knew it and I was right.
Yep. And you got to keep going from there. Keep building from there. And you use that validation, learn how these problem owners describe the problem, right? And when you hear the same things over and over again, you use that language to find new problem owners and to reach out to them. And that's how you message it to them.
That's it.
You say, oh, you have the same problem where every time you get to the last bit in the toothpaste, little bottle,
right,
and you can't get the last bit of toothpaste out,
yep,
and you hate that, and you end up throwing away toothpaste, and you feel like you're wasting money,
right?
If that's how people define it, use that when you reach out to more people and say, hey, I'm looking for people who hate when they waste toothpaste in the last bit of the little tube. And
I'm going to be like, oh, somebody understands my pain.
Somebody understands me. I want to talk to them.
Yes.
That's it.
That's it.
That's how you do it.
And I'm willing to pay for whatever is going to help me,
whatever it is,
get that last bit of toothpaste out.
And trust me, it's a whole bunch of devices and what mechanisms on Amazon to get that little bit of toothpaste out.
It sure is.
I don't know if they even work that well.
I've probably used one. I didn't buy it, but I've used it. And I will say it did work.
Got the toothpaste out. You didn't feel like you wasted the toothpaste.
Did not.
Wow. Success. Success.
Oh. Well, did you have anything else to drop on the folks for today?
All I'm going to say is, if you want to be an entrepreneur, it's about solving problems.
That's it.
And there are no lack of problems in the world. Every single human being has problems.
Everyone. You literally wake up and go to sleep. 2 problems.
Yes. So if you want to be an entrepreneur and you're like, it's this, and this holding me back, I don't know what to do. Literally ask people what their problems are. Like, go out, observe, listen, hear what people are complaining about. And that's your opportunity as an entrepreneur. Is to step in and say, how might I solve that problem?
That's it.
That's it.
Identify the audience. See how big the problem is. Rest is, as they say,
not easy.
Not easy. I was gonna say easy, but definitely not easy.
But worthwhile.
Yeah. And as long as you stay true to that in your mind, you'll definitely identify that problem and get to the next step, which is what we'll talk about next weekend.
We're gonna talk about it next week.
Finding solutions to that problem.
Yeah.
Because there may be more than one.
It's true. There probably are.
That's it.
Yeah.
Well, guys, thanks so much again for tuning in to our second episode of the Garry Jason Show, Dialogues and Dialects in Tech. We hope you enjoyed it. Hopefully you got some great information out of this. We're going to keep getting better every week, keep working on our material. So definitely appreciate you guys tuning in, and we will see you next week.
See you next week.
Peace.
Thanks for watching.